Eckhart Tolle's 4 tips for staying present in 2023. Now let's dive into it. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. My name is Lance, and in today's video, we're going to talk about Eckhart Tolle's 4 tips for being present and staying present in 2023. And if you're unfamiliar with Eckhart Tolle, he has written the very popular book, The Power of Now, which I highly recommend if you haven't read it yet. And it's in this book and through some of the things he says on his YouTube channel and in interviews he's done publicly where he gives us the juice. These 4 powerful tips for staying present in the year 2023 and really any year. Now let's dive into it. Now, the first tip, of course, we have to define what the present moment, what the now is. Without understanding the present moment, without understanding what the now is, these tips are meaningless to us. So let's get started. The present moment is all there is. The present moment holds the key to liberation, but you cannot find the present moment as long as you are your mind, as long as you're identified with the mind. You must realize deeply that the present moment is all you ever have and make the now the primary focus of your life. Have your dwelling place in the now and pay brief visits to the past and the future when required to deal with the practical aspects of your life situation. Always say yes to the present moment. So in this way, we can see the present is all there ever is. That's really all you have. If you're making plans for the future, you're doing it now. If you're either being nostalgic or regretful over the past, you're doing it now. You're doing all of these things in this now moment. And the degree to which we can embody this present moment, the degree to which we can pull our attention out of our minds and into the present is the degree to which we can relieve our own mental suffering. Because 90% of the suffering we experience is in our own minds. It's our own mind's judgment and mental resistance, mental running away from what's going on in this now moment. That is, the Buddhists said the same thing. That is the root of all suffering. It is the mind. It is being, not the mind itself, the mind is a useful tool. It's being identified with the mind. It's believing that the ego is real, believing that you're a real person and thinking so hard about everything around you that you get all this mental suffering. So that's our first tip. That's Eckhart's first tip. We have to define the present moment and understanding that the present is all there is. And it's the key to ending the mental suffering. Find the present moment. Now, let's get into tip number 2. Eckhart Tolle's second tip for 2023. You may ask me, okay, Lance, Eckhart, how do I bring myself out of my mind? I'm so in my mind's spinning all the time, all these thoughts, all these judgments, what someone said, what someone did, my judgments and preferences about everything, and I'm suffering because of it. How can I stop being so identified with the mind? We need to practice body awareness. We need to practice being in our body. And again, from Eckhart Tolle himself, practice body awareness. To become conscious of being, you need to reclaim consciousness from the mind. This is one of the most essential tasks on your spiritual journey. It will free vast amounts of consciousness that previously had been trapped in useless and compulsive thinking. A very effective way of doing this is simply to take the focus of your attention away from your thinking and direct it into the body, where being can be felt in the first instance as the invisible energy field that gives life to what you perceive as the physical body. Direct your attention into the body. Feel it from within. Is it alive? Is there life in your hands, arms, legs, and feet? In your abdomen, your chest? Can you feel the subtle energy field that pervades the entire body and gives vibrant life to every organ and every cell? Can you feel it simultaneously in all parts of the body as a single field of energy? Keep focusing on the feeling of your inner body for a few moments. So with this practice, and I'm going to give you some more tips myself. I've been on the spiritual journey now for 15, 16 years at this point. It feels like forever. But practicing dropping your awareness into the body. The easiest 2 places to start feeling this invisible energy field that Eckhart talks about is your hands and your feet. The hands are the easiest, the feet are the second easiest. Quite literally, just bring your focus. You don't have to look at them, but sometimes it can help. Your mental focus to become aware of your hands. And the minute you draw your focus there, you're going to feel this buzzing. It almost feels like a little mini vibration, this buzzing in your hands. That is that energy field. Now feel it in your feet. Now what's fun is, as I name a part of your body you were previously unaware of, you'll instantly begin to feel that tension there. How about your left elbow? How about your right knee? How about your left calf? See, as I name these different places, the spotlight of your awareness instantly goes there. Now, I find the chest and the abdomen for me is the hardest one to feel, but just practice that. But you see, as you become intensely focused on these different parts of your body and your energy field, it naturally draws away identification with the mind, and you naturally become calmer. Your thoughts start to quiet down. This is where meditation comes in. We're choosing a focus point, usually the breath at the nose or at the chest, rising and falling. And that's what meditation is. Meditation is pulling juice away from the ego, the identification with that, and putting our field of awareness into the body. It's kind of a nice trick to get your mind to settle down. And also, the more you embody the body, oh yeah, the dad jokes all day long. The more you embody your body will actually begin to feel better, be more healthy, and have more energy. Because as Eckhart says as well, when the master's home, when the master's not home, the master is not taking residence in the house, all sorts of shady creatures and characters take up residence. But when the master's home, they can't live in the light of his awareness. So like when you're more present and aware of your body, less things can go wrong with it. Now, I'm not saying you're going to heal yourself completely by being aware of things, but what I'm saying is by being more aware of the body and leaving it so less neglected, it becomes healthier over time because you're giving more energy to it, life force. Now, let's break into Eckhart's third tip for being present in 2023. We need to practice being the watcher, the pure awareness. When we are busy being the watcher, we are no longer identified with the body or the mind. I know we just went over body awareness, and that's good. Body awareness is a good first step to get you out of the mind. But what we ultimately want to try and become and embody is becoming the watcher. The watcher is pure awareness. The watcher is the pure field of awareness that exists prior to body, prior to mind. The entire universe begins with consciousness and awareness, and all things rise from it. When, the famous saying, I think, therefore I am, it's backwards. That whole statement's backwards. Flip it around. I am first. Therefore I think. I am this consciousness that becomes trapped believing I am the ego and the identity. Therefore, I then become to think incessantly. When reality is you can exist without thought. That's what meditation is. When you get practiced it enough, that's where a lot of the gurus and the Buddha and all that, they exist without thought. They use thought as a machine, as a tool, but then they let it go. But let's break into what does Eckhart himself say about practicing this watcher and being the pure awareness. Be present as the watcher of your mind, of your thoughts and emotion, as well as your reactions in various situations. Be at least as interested in your reactions as in the situation or person that causes you to react. Notice also how often your attention is in the past or the future. Don't judge or analyze what you observe. Watch the thoughts. Feel the emotions. Observe the reaction. Don't make a personal problem out of them. You will feel something more powerful than any of those things that you observe. The still observing presence itself becomes the content of your mind, the silent watcher. You can then allow the emotion to be there without being controlled by it. You no longer are the emotion, you are the watcher, the observing presence. The one who observes, the silent watcher. This is the power of the now. The power of your own conscious presence. Consequently, the watcher, pure consciousness beyond form, becomes stronger and the mental formations become weaker. Now, we heard from Eckhart's own words. What we're doing, we practice being this watcher. And for some of you that are very much along the spiritual path, you may say to me, well, Lance, isn't just the ego coming in the back door? Instead of being the mind and the ego, I'm now being this watcher, which is this new pure thing. To a degree, that's how it starts. Because we're so identified with mind, we're so identified with ego, we begin to shift that identity to this watcher identity, which ultimately begins as another form of ego. But as many of the gurus would say, as Nisargadatta Maharaj would say, I am is the bridge, right? The watcher is the bridge. The watcher is the bridge between the pure conscious awareness and being identified with the ego. Between the unmanifested and the manifested. The I am is the bridge. The I am is the first thought. The thought that goes on in the back of your mind continuously that you're not aware of subconsciously is you are reinforcing your existence as a real being in this universe. The thought of I, or I am, is the first thought. It's the foundational thought that your entire existence is built out of. Because you have to be somebody to be an avatar in this body, to have an ego, to have personality, to have preferences. There has to be this repeating I thought. Well, that repeating I thought is the bridge between ultimately the pure, unmanifested, pervasive consciousness throughout the entire universe and our limited being that we are busy being. But it's still very helpful to embody this watcher, because when we start to pull juice away from the mind, we pull our identification away from being identified with the ego, having our full identity being this personality that's been created. We find ourselves experiencing less suffering because we're not so busy in the past and the future. We're not so busy judging and having these preferences around everything. We begin to live a life that's more unconditional than conditional. Now, what does that mean? Living a life conditionally is, if I have money, I am happy. If I do not have money, I am not happy. Conditional life says, I don't like fish. If someone serves me fish, I am now unhappy. A conditional life makes you very much like a machine, where you have a bunch of buttons. If people push the right buttons, you are happy and joyful. If people push the wrong buttons, you automatically react unconsciously to being negative and upset and angry and sad or whatever. Well, we are talking about, by becoming the watcher, we're talking about living unconditionally also. We are talking about observing these things with no preference, with no judgment. We're having a preference for no preferences. And we are observing the mind, we're observing what comes around us, and we're living unconditionally. Because if you live conditionally, you are only as happy as your external conditions will allow you to be. If you live unconditionally, you can be as joyful as you choose to be inside yourself, regardless of what's happening around you. And that's a whole deep topic. We're going to make another video on that. But let's get into Eckhart's fourth tip. Now, you may say to me, Lance, I agree with you. The present moment's important. I agree with you on Eckhart. The body awareness is a great way to pull attention from the mind, keep the body healthy and strong. I agree that the watcher, this pure awareness, is going to bring me joy and happiness. But Eckhart, what am I supposed to do when hard stuff happens? What am I supposed to do when challenges arise? What am I supposed to do when my car breaks down and I'm on the way to work and I'm going to be late for the third time? What am I supposed to do when, my spouse cheats on me? What am I supposed to do when I have all these bills to pay and no money? What am I supposed to do with all these things that are going to make me, watch our language, that make me upset, that are bad things? What am I supposed to do with that? Well, when challenges arise, you have three options to deal with the challenge. And we're going to let Eckhart speak on this topic. If you find your here and now intolerable and it makes you unhappy, you have three options. Remove yourself from the situation, change it or take action, or accept it totally. If you want to take responsibility for your life, you must choose one of these three options. You must choose now. Then accept the consequences. No excuses, no negativity, no psychic pollution. Keep your inner space clear. So as the introduction to this, what we do with challenges, these are our three options. We can either take some form of action. If we are perceiving something as a problem, a challenge, something must be done because this is, I got a thorn in my foot, I got a broken arm, I'm hungry. Something has to happen here, right? I can take action. I can go find food, I can go to the doctor, I can do whatever. I can leave the situation, say this is an interpersonal with me and another human being. And this human being is acting in a way that I believe to be intolerable and incorrect, such that it's causing me to perceive our interaction as a suffering. My ego perceives this as a suffering, me interacting with this human. I have tried to take action, and this human has not changed their behavior. Well, I can leave. Hey, I'm done playing with you. I'm done playing this dance of life with you in this moment because you are acting in a way that I believe is either, disrespectful or whatever, that I am causing mental suffering by being in your presence. I'm going to leave. I'm sorry. You know what I mean? We'll try this again later. Now, if we can't take action and we can't leave, like say you're in a job and your boss is being a prick, right? To you. Well, let's just say for whatever reason, external circumstances, you can't take action, you can't leave. You are stuck there. Well, then you must surrender completely and accept the situation. And I can hear you guys right now. How am I supposed to surrender completely to such an intolerable situation? Well, because it's the only option you have. And if you don't surrender internally, and I don't mean surrender like surrender to this external force, I mean surrender internally, mentally. Surrender creating mental resistance to what's going on. Because by creating all this mental resistance to what's going on in front of you, you're just causing yourself another layer of suffering. By you busy mentally suffering, mentally running away from a situation that you can't do anything about, you're just creating more and more tension and resistance, and you're less and less in the now. And I will tell you, when you surrender to situations completely, like truly completely surrender, you'll be surprised sometimes how the universe will respond to that and sometimes will give you a change. It's kind of interesting. But let's go back to Eckhart. He's got more to say about challenge. To complain is always non-acceptance of what is. It invariably carries an unconscious negative charge. When you complain, you make yourself into a victim. When you speak out, you are in your power. So change the situation by taking action or speaking out, if necessary or possible. Leave the situation, if none of those things worked, or accept it. All else is madness. The pain that you create now is always some form of non-acceptance, some form of unconscious resistance to what is. On the level of thought, the resistance is some form of judgment. On the emotional level, it is some form of negativity. The intensity of the pain depends on the degree of resistance to the present moment. And this, in turn, depends on how strongly you are identified with your mind. So again, just like I said and Eckhart said, doing anything other than these three things when it comes to a challenge in your life is madness. Why is this so? Because in this now moment, you quite literally only have these three options. And anything else you're doing in your mind, you're just hurting yourself. You're just beating yourself up for this situation that you're stuck in for whatever reason, right? And I'm telling you, in my life, it's worked out a million times where I have surrendered to this painful situation. I have changed my inner reality relative to this outer reality. And the outer reality oftentimes will change. That our outer reality is nothing more than a mirror of what's going on inside of us. Are there things that are put in our path for karma by our higher selves or spirit guides or God or whatever as ways to test, as ways to grow and develop us? I believe that as well. And some of those things you have to figure out. That's the challenge. That's the mountain for you to climb and understand. But while we're climbing that mountain, if we're busy begrudging the fact that we have to climb the mountain, you're making the climb so much harder. You're burning up all this extra mental energy and body energy, absorbing in these negative thoughts. And then that pattern ripples out, and now you have people being negative to you, and etc. But in any case, my friends, those are Eckhart Tolle's 4 tips for being present in 2023. If you enjoyed this video, I ask you to do 2 things. Please like the video